Hello everybody, welcome to the world of classical astrology. In this video I would like to take a look at Magnus Carlsen, former and new world champion of chess. Just been fascinating to see how transiting planets to his birth horoscope were in precise action, so to say, when he won the tiebreaks in finally after 12 matches that all ended in draws. And on that day, in the end, it was rather clear, and Carlsen won first 2 matches and then the third, and then it was done for him, and he was the new champion again. And here you see the birth chart of Magnus Carlsen, and I want to point your attention to the position of the Sun and Mars in opposition, and it's just fascinating because during the 2 weeks of the tournament, Jupiter was applying in Sagittarius, coming closer, not to the Sun, but to the opposition of to Mars. And in fact, on that day when he won his tiebreaks, and in that evening at that hour when it happened, when he could celebrate, it was indeed the opposition from Jupiter in the sky and his Mars on 4:30, as you see below here. There was less, it was a minute in distance only. So Jupiter was at 4:29 Sagittarius on that Wednesday afternoon, early evening, I believe, when he had won his matches. And it's rather striking. And the fascinating thing also that everybody's looking down to the board in the mastermind world of chess, and no one looking up in the sky and realizing this, well, accidental occasion, fate, whatever, in what you want to call it, where you can just call it astrology as well. Astrology at work. The other chart here shows, this chart shows that day. It was Wednesday, the 28th November. It was in the early evening, and when the third match was played and the decision was there. And here you see Jupiter that was in the bunch here with the Sun and Mercury. And as you see here below, as I said before, it's 4:29 degrees and almost 30, so it's less than a minute distance to the Mars of Carlsen when he won his match. It's an interesting story also to look at Caruana in this, the other guy from USA who was the challenger, so say here. He also, well, has Mars here in early Gemini, but 2 degrees earlier in the sign. And for him, if you want to put it like this, the Jupiter, this by opposition, was wearing off over time and this separating, while for Carlsen it was applying. And of course, this is the most simple approach one can think of, but it kind of worked to predict the outcome. If you take a closer look and saw the tie breaks on that day, the opposition would be exact for Carlsen. That would be a strong hint already that it would go to him in the end. Yeah, and that's only the beginning, because there's plenty of other things or stories to pick up in this case. Of course, like transits are, oh, it's amazing how far you get only with looking at the transits, but if you look a bit deeper also, you look at progressions in the birth chart, and the progress planets for Carlsen in this chart you see here. And it's always a good idea to follow like one storyline, like with the Jupiter that we just spoke about. And it's sort of, the outcome is confirmed in a way, looking at his progressions, because the progressed moon was always like a major factor that moves over 10 and a bit degrees over a year. And you see it here in the midst of Taurus, and it's just squaring Jupiter in the natal chart of Carlsen, just by coincidence. And for those of you who know about, ever heard about Antisha, the mirror points of planets and stars, that's in the chart, that's well, more in the classical astrology, and I can only recommend to get to know about this and learn about it, because it works. And if you see here, because there's like an axis in the chart that goes here between Capricorn and Cancer, and the planet on 15 Leo will have his antition, his mirror point on 15 Taurus. So Jupiter in the birth chart of Carlsen has his antition on 15 Taurus, and the progress moon is just getting in touch, so getting into conjunction with this Jupiter once more. Again, showing like his successful time and successful year he's having. And it's getting even more interesting. Let me look at my notes. Also, rather remarkable, the progress Sun now has pretty exact in trine with the moon of his birth, which, well, is some major feature in the chart for this major time in his career, so to say. Now, Carlsen has been champion now since 2013, and he became champion in 2013, and he defended his title once already in 2016. So it's obviously interesting to look at those times. And we start with 2013, when he started to be, well, he did beat Anand, who was 20 years older than him, and he became champion with 23 years old. So this is a chart from Carlsen with his progressions for 2013. And the transits, you see the progression in green and the transit planets, slow planets in red. And it's remarkable to see that in 2013, transit Jupiter, remember, now 2 days ago it was opposing his Mars, and 2013 he was just right on the MC when he came top dog in chess worldwide, so to say. So that's another coincidence, isn't it? I think it's rather remarkable already. And looking at the progressions for 2013, again, most important, look at the moon for the time, and it's here on 6 Pisces about, and it's in fact right between, or making in the apex, making a T-square, or it's right in the apex of this Sun-Mars opposition. So it's quite a special position for the moon for 2013, just as well. Some major fighting going on in his life well. Looking at now, following this line, it would just be wonderful, or like we would expect to find some of the same plot or storyline in for 2016 as well. And in fact, there is. It's again a bit different, but kind of the same too. So this is Carlsen's progressions for 2016, when he first defended his title against a guy called Karyakin, was his name, and that also went into tiebreak after 12 matches. But Carlsen won, and well, where's Jupiter? Where's the Moon? The MC, that was also even for 2013 close to Jupiter, but let's not be tedious. The birth time, maybe it's 12 minutes earlier or later, and you know, we don't want to even know when MC is really exact conjunct Jupiter, so we don't even pick this up. But the Moon is progressed this time on 16 Jupiter, and first thing is, well, it's just made a trine, this time a trine with Jupiter of the natal chart, and also what's not, you don't see it in this chart, but it's in fact the progress Moon is in opposition, in exact opposition to the Jupiter of those days in 2016, because Jupiter then was at 16 Libra, what you see in this chart. I think here in the outside you have the transits. So Jupiter was, well, close to the ascendant. Never know about birth time, maybe it was a bit later or something in between. But closest really is, like, as said, Jupiter is here, and the transiting Moon, or the progress Moon, is exact in contact with Jupiter again, with transit Jupiter in this case. And that's not all, it's also remarkably there's Mars too. So we have a pretty close trine in the air, Jupiter with Mars, and this is touching very close with Carlsen's Jupiter. The position here is pretty exact, and Jupiter here is there, and the progress Moon, as said before, is opposing this Jupiter. So again, playing the same tune sort of thing here in this chart. So that's rather fascinating. Finally, well, I forgot that earlier actually, to take a look at Carolina and mention, because for these, and he just had a bad day. At first they played 12 draws in the 2 weeks before, and on that day he made some major mistakes and just had a bad day. And it's also part of the story, as said, that in the early evening, the Moon here, when it was over, was pretty exact at 20 Leo. And if you look at Carolina, his birth chart, well, that's a Moon chart, we don't know about the birth time, better to ignore the Moon here. And it's just, but it's spot on that Venus square Pluto. Say the Moon, when he like kicked the king, or how you say, dropped it dead in the tie breaks, the Moon was exact square the Pluto in his birth chart, and that's not a happy moment, I'd say.